Greetings, class. In the first of this series on the discussion assignments, I talked a little bit about the purpose and design. And as you may recall, then the discussion assignments are an academic conversation about topics, specifically applying law and ethics topics to various scenarios. So in the second part, what I'm going to talk about is how I evaluate the assignments. One of the questions that students often have is about whether this is a group grade or an individual grade. It is a group discussion, and when I look at the overall conversation, I do look at all the postings together, so I read them together. But your grade is an individual grade based on your participation, your contribution to the overall group discussion. Remember that at the end of the discussion, sometimes you'll end up with a group report that will go to the class. Sometimes it's a group report that goes only to me. But in looking at that final project or final product, I also look at what you've contributed to that final product. So it's an individual grade even though it's a group project. So what I have on the screen now that we're going to spend a little bit of time with is a sample rubric. What I do then is when I give these kinds of assignments, I develop a rubric that tells you how I'm going to grade you and how I'm going to assign points. The rubric that I've given you is from another class, and another course, but the elements are typically the same. So I wanted to go through this rubric so that you could see what I do. There are 3 criterion that are listed on the left column of the table on this slide. One is timeliness, one is content and analysis, and the other is grammar and professionalism. And I'm going to go through each of these. First, in terms of timeliness, what I'm looking at is whether you've participated regularly, early in this discussion. So, if you posted only the last day, then you earn 3 out of the 9 points that are available for this column for timeliness. Sometimes students are concerned that, well, you just don't have time to post, and so you post everything on the last day, and that should count. There are a couple of problems with that. One is that some of this requires some thought, and so if you're cramming it all into one day, it doesn't give other students a chance to think about your comments. It also, second, assumes that everyone has the same schedule and that everyone's going to be online posting on that day that you choose. Sometimes people post earlier, sometimes people do post on the last day, but if you wait until only the last day, you reduce that flexibility for the other students. So for those couple of reasons at least, if you post only the last day, no matter how many times you post, you get 3 points. If you post the last couple of days, it's the same issue. Or if you've posted only 2 times during the forum, then that's also a problem. Excuse me. When I talk about 2 days, that means that they're 24-hour days, because I've sometimes had students that post at 11:30 at night and then post again at 12:30 and want that to count as 2 days. It doesn't. Those are 24-hour days. But what I'm looking at for timeliness is in the proficient box in this table. You posted within a week of the assignment opening, posted 4 or more times, at least several different days. Posted and responded to other students' comments so that others have an opportunity to respond and engage in constructive dialogue. Again, that's the point. This is an academic discussion, so it does require that allowing others to have time to respond and also responding to others' comments. The second component of the grade is the content and analysis, and you can see that's the bulk of the points. That's 20 of the 35 points for this particular assignment. If you just state an opinion that doesn't show that you read anything or know what happened in the material, then at most you'll get 8 points, and it may not even be 8 points, depending on what those comments are. If you refer to specific material in general, or your opinions are supported by or related to the resources, then you will get more points. For content and analysis, the most points are for posting that refer to quality outside materials, in addition to clear references to credible resources and the information that's within the assignment that I've given you. That is where the critical thinking and analysis comes in, is in those kinds of postings that refer to quality material. So you have to evaluate if you go outside the material that is provided in either the book or in the particular assignment. But those are the things that can help, that will earn you the full credit. The last element of the grade is grammar and professionalism. You know, we have this distinction between informal and formal writing. And informal writing is text messages to your friends, family, getting on Twitter often is informal writing. Those are the kinds of things that you are more casual about. On these discussion boards, I expect more formal writing, similar to the writing you would do for a paper or other assignment that you turn in to an instructor. So, for the lowest amount of points, or actually no points, if there are more than a few grammatical errors per posting, so you're not proofreading, there's no citations where there should be, then you don't get any points for that grammar professionalism. If there are few grammatical errors, especially errors that don't necessarily interfere with understanding what you posted, it's clearly written, there are citations and quotation marks that are made appropriately, and it's courteous, all of those things, all those are qualities that would earn you the full 6 points. Now, in terms of citations, one of the early assignments is the Plagiarism Workshop. And part of that is because I want you to be clear that if you copy and paste, then it is plagiarism unless you cite the source and use quotation marks. If you omit either of those things, then that can constitute plagiarism. And the Plagiarism Workshop is designed, that assignment is designed to provide you with more information. So in your discussion board postings, those same rules apply. If you go out on the internet and you find a really good example that answers the question, and you decide you want to take that example, you can do that. You can copy and paste it. But you must use quotation marks and you must cite the source. In terms of citation, if it's the web, an electronic resource, then the URL is fine because I can look at it from there. If it's, say, a textbook from another class, then you would give the name of the textbook, the author, and the edition so that I could look that up to see, and the page number, so I could look that up. If it's something from the textbook, then you can just say text page so-and-so. If it's from one of the resources, you can just say, let's say you had an article by Jones, then you just say Jones. And that would be enough to tell me that you're using the resources. So I don't require a formal citation format, but I do require that you give credit where credit is due. If you've taken it from someone else, give them the credit. And then the other point about courteousness. That's especially important as we're talking about you're critiquing other students' comments. You're adding to them, you're clarifying, you're asking for explanations, you're explaining, you're summarizing. You're maybe pointing out weaknesses, but you're doing that to help everyone learn. It helps you learn to read that way. It helps them learn to read those comments. However, you are to be courteous when you do that. So, you using things like please and thank you, or, pointing out something that was clear, then also pointing out something that was unclear, that needed work, or that you wanted to add to. Those are all things that demonstrate courteousness and respect for your colleagues in this endeavor. So that's the rubric. The one for your class may be somewhat different, but be sure you read it through before you post so you know kind of what I'm expecting. Read it carefully as part of the assignment that you will download. I attach the rubric to the end of every assignment. Typically, all the discussion assignments will have the same rubric, excuse me, unless it's an earlier assignment where it's just a few points. So which of the following would earn students more points? Posting multiple comments only on the last day? Posting a first comment to every assignment question? Posting some comments and some responses? Posting your opinion without citing resources? Or posting your opinion without reading others' comments first? I'll give you 10 seconds and then I'll reveal the answer. And the answer is posting some first comments and some responses. Again, this is a group project, so I'm looking at the overall group's performance in terms of whether you fulfilled the expectations of the assignment, but the actual grades are based on the rubric that an example of which I've talked about already. So thanks for listening. If you haven't already looked at it, be sure to take a look at the part 3. In part 3, I go through a sample posting so you know what works best, and then I give you something that's a pretty good posting at the undergraduate level. So be sure to listen to part 3.